Now, on the 8th day of the 10K crystal login event, I'm sure a lot of you by now are piling up tons of crystals and you're still wondering what to do with them. Well, if the last video about this, maybe a week and a half ago, didn't help you, where I outlined basically all of the best ways, in my opinion, most of the best ways to spend your crystals, I will now cover the other major way you can spend your crystals, which I think is a massive mistake, and that is on the crystal characters. Yes, there are a bunch of characters, I believe at least 21 characters that you can spend crystals on. Now, there are only 5 shown here because I have the rest of them unlocked already, and I've built the rest of them. Some of them used to be available for free. Some of them used to be available through Heroic Quest, which is no longer available. But I'm basically just going to break it down for you guys. I'm going to go through all 21 of the characters super fast and give you my opinion and tell you how much I use those characters so that for what that's worth, you can consider whether you want to spend crystals to get them. Just keep in mind they're all discounted right now. They're all 30% off. But whenever any of them gets a uniform, rework, tier 4, whatever in the future, they will be 20% off then. I know it's not as big of a discount, but if you're worried about FOMO, if you're thinking like, oh man, I have to get this character now because when they get a tier 4, I'm going to want to have them built. Sure, you can do that. You can save that extra 10% now. But remember, however long between now you buying them and then they get the rework, all that time lost, you could have invested those crystals elsewhere. Into a deluxe pack, farming rewards. Into the Multiverse Invasion pack, farming emblems, gambling, whatever. I'm not saying it's like you shouldn't do it, but I'm just saying it's not as... saving that extra 10% sounds efficient in your head, but then if it takes a year for them to give Sabretooth a tier 4, you basically saved the 10% crystals, but you put 20% away. You basically lost 20% for a year. You locked it up for a year with no interest, no return on your investment. So it's not actually as good as it seems, and I think the 30% discount gets a little bit overhyped. So starting with these 5 characters right here, I don't use any of them. The only one that I use is Mystique, and I actually only use her because I tier 4'd her. Now, this is obviously going to be a bit of a whale perspective because of World Boss Legend Plus, but I would say that Mystique is, you know, not a very good support anymore for all intents and purposes. There are much better supports out there, and what she does is just basically not that great. It's only really helpful at tier 4. She's not that easy to play. She's not even the second, maybe not even the third best speed villain. So yeah, she really just doesn't do anything. Sabretooth does basically nothing. Even with multiple buffs in Otherworld Battle, I cannot use him even with a 4-star artifact and a mighty CTP. Nope, doesn't work. Emma Frost, I know a lot of you people like her. I really like her as well. I hope she gets some Rivals uniform or something else. But right now, she's basically useless. She's not used for Otherworld Battle at all. She's only going to be on like very low tier Conquest teams. Again, you can buy her ahead of her tier 4 rework. When I did this video 5 months ago for Black Friday, I was saying the same thing. Guys, maybe you want to invest in Emma ahead of her rework because she was on that voting poll. Bro, they may have forgotten about the voting poll. We may never see anything for Emma and Medusa. I think that's unlikely, but I'm saying like there's no guarantee it's coming this year. It was supposed to come last year, and we're halfway through this year, and it still hasn't come. So I would stop kind of making that my North Star guiding principle for character upgrades, Medusa and Emma, because I just think it's a little delulu. Iceman has just sucked for the past few years, and his seasonal uniform just wasn't very good. And then Blue Dragon is the only other tier 4 besides Mystique. She's okay, but not very good, and almost exclusively for PvP content at this point. And, you know, again, it's sort of like Emma Frost. She's in kind of the low-tier AC teams. If everyone is banned for the new game mode, Time Battle Arena, you may see a team pop up with her and Sunbird and maybe like another support or something, but you would need like 20 PvP characters banned. I don't think she's even in the top 20, but I think some people will definitely take the opportunity to argue with me about that. Now, there are a bunch of characters that are available for crystals that you can just unlock. So there's like Kang, who's available for 2,000 crystals. There is Black Swan, who's available for 3,000 crystals. Gore's available for 1,500. Mephisto, I believe, is also available for 1,500 crystals. These are all world bosses. Just unlock them from the world bosses. They're like, this is such a massive, colossal waste of crystals, guys. That's all I have to say about that. Just never, ever, ever get any of those characters that I mentioned, those 4 or 5 characters. Never get them from from crystals. Always just unlock them for free from World Boss. It's super easy. It takes 2 days max, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. However, Odin and Dormammu are no longer available for free. You have to pick them up. They cost 1,225 crystals, I believe, each, and that's a tough pill to swallow. In Dormammu's case, he's been useless on my roster for a long time, like 3 years. So again, you could buy him as like a future hopes, you know, please, Wellsprings Eternal, but it's basically just a YOLO into the future. There's no guarantee. There's no return on your investment here. I think this is a major no, but some people will do it just because they like the character. Odin got a tier 4, got a new uniform, unlike Dormammu, so he's much, much better. He's a really strong tier 380 for what it's worth. Like, he's a really strong tier 380. He hits really hard, so he doesn't even need tier 4 to be good. For that reason, I think he's kind of attractive as a pick, but he's a native tier 2, and it costs crystals to buy, and then you have to buy his uniform as well. So it's a bit of a tough one. I can't really recommend him because there are a lot of other strong level 80 tier 3s. Like Miles Morales is really, really good as well. He's just not universal, and he doesn't deal energy damage. That's the only difference really between Odin and Miles, but they both do really, really well in PvE without needing tier 4. Odin used to have slight PvP value because of his immunity to cancel, but because they, you know, haven't given him any other PvP angles or dimensions, he basically has no value there. The main sort of, you know, questions I think I'm going to get about the Crystal characters is the Heroic Quest characters who are no longer available from Heroic Quest. I do believe that they're all transcended characters, and you have, you know, you have Arachnite, who is never used, so I think this is just a massive, massive pass. And then you have White Fox and Wave. In Wave's case, I actually think she's lost value. There are just more support characters now. You don't use Wave anymore. There are better options. Shuri got a uniform. Nick Fury got a tier 4. Again, Wave is just, it's just like a whatever passive. It's 50% with a bit of damage reduction. It's just not that good. It only applies to heroes. Her artifact also does not buff allies, whereas we've seen with more recent supports, Valkyrie's uniform, Sin's uniform, etc., they also package in the artifact as a support artifact to make them even more of like a giga support. So I would see Wave as just kind of like a middling support. Honestly, like between Wave and Angela, there's very little difference as supports, if you think about that. And putting it that way, would you pay crystals to get Angela? No, so you probably wouldn't pay crystals to get Wave either. So if one day Namor makes a comeback, I know she gives a big buff to Namor specifically. If one day Namor makes a huge comeback, maybe we can restart that conversation. But for now, I definitely think Wave is a pass. The only one to consider is White Fox. She is still a fantastic support for leadership allies. It's crazy. 60% increased damage to villains is where she starts. So she already starts a leg up, you know, 20% up, 25% up on Wave and these other cats. And then if you can pick up her Lifestyle Series 1, which is not paywall, then she's going to get some additional buffs here, I believe. She gives them an extra 10% attack and immunity to fear, which is like, okay, it's like whatever. And then if you can get this uniform, which I believe should be discounted, if it wasn't already discounted this last Christmas, it should be discounted next Christmas. And then that's where she gets really insane with the basic attack and the chain hit damage and the ignore dodge. She's almost like a CTP worth of buffs. It's actually crazy. And again, it's all leadership allies, anybody that has that ability there. So she's very, very potent, and I think, you know, should be part of most people's rosters. Taking a quick look at the Danger Room characters, Negasonic Teenage Warhead is an absolute pass. Very weak character. Never got a uniform. Basically has just been left in the dirt. She may get something in the future because she's a mutant, and mutants, you know, frequently get reworks. But for now, this is just a massive waste of like 3,000 crystals. Rachel is pretty good. She actually does get featured a lot in Otherworld Battle when the top 10 are banned. So I would say she's probably just outside the top 10 for PvP, and she does give you access to Madeline, who is probably around, you know, a similar level, like top 8, top 10 for PvP. So if you are looking to expand your PvP roster outside of the Megalodons, like you've already built up Sentry and Silver Surfer and Null and these like huge cats, then she is an option, but it's very expensive. It's 3,000 crystals, then it's another 1,000 for the uniform, and you need the artifact. The artifact allows her to revive, which is the whole gimmick like Cersei, where she revives and she pops Phoenix Volcano. So you absolutely need that. Without the artifact, it's kind of a no-brainer. She's basically not relevant at all for PvP without the artifact. So just be careful with that. The other two options for the Danger Room characters, you have Abomination, who should only really be considered if you really love Hulk, and you have the seasonal uniform. Without the seasonal uniform, Abomination is still a good support for Gamma allies 45 with the 20% ignore dodge, or sorry, 20% chain hit. And then he also has the passive here on the artifact that gives you more HP and more attack. I still think he's good, but the uniform does really take it to the next level, boosting the ignore dodge. And, you know, swapping the chain hit for ignore dodge, which is quite a bit better for what, you know, Hulk does, ABX, ABL. But yeah, I think it's really for Hulk fans because it only applies to Gamma allies anyways. So just consider that. But he's strictly just a support. But I think with or without the uniform, I think he's still pretty good as a support in that capacity. And then finally, we have Professor X, who has been pretty bad for 2 years now. So you can read into that how you want. I never use him. I really just never use him. And yeah, there's really just no reason for me to use him. 0 PvP value and very little PvE value. Very soft defensively. Just not fun to play at this point. Needs a massive rework, and unfortunately, he already got 2 of his coolest looks. So yeah, I mean, there are definitely still, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of cool looks for Professor X. He does a lot of aura farming. But yeah, again, it's something that I don't think it's worth spending the 3,000 crystals now to invest, just crossing your fingers and hoping to see something in the future. And then finally, we come to the 2 big dogs, who I think are pretty much the only characters that people should be seriously considering. They are the most expensive, however. There's Adam Warlock for 4,600 crystals, and there's Silver Surfer for 4,600 crystals. Now, you should never ever consider Silver Surfer. That was a trick. That was a trap. That was a, you know, a rhetorical question, because you can unlock him for free from GBR. So just go into GBR, fight Galactus, get your 10 bios, unlock your Silver Surfer for free. It's super duper easy. Even brand new accounts can do that day 1. You can get carried for a few days, and honestly, with a tier 4 selector, you could probably go in and slap up Galactus yourself on day 1. So there's absolutely no reason under any circumstances that you should ever buy him for crystals, but you should build him because he is very good for PvP. Adam is also very good for PvP. I think his value will be supported and buffed by this new game mode, Team Battle Arena. I think he's pretty good for this game mode. He has good AoE. He has good survivability. You do need his artifacts. Just keep that in mind. And the higher, the better. So I would say at least like 5 stars for Adam, because he needs as much healing as he can get to really, you know, shore up his defenses. I do still think he's good. I do have a bias against him, so I'm not a big fan of investing in him. But I would say if you're really into PvP, if you're really enjoying the game modes that PvP offers, and you're looking to expand your PvP roster, I would say give him a look and sort of maybe consider investing in him. But I would say as a caveat, at this, like right now, the way that the game is and the state of the game in terms of PvP, I would not invest in Adam Warlock for timeline battle, for one-on-one. I would invest in Adam Warlock if you already have Null, if you already have Sentry, if you maybe already have Wolverine, Silver Surfer. If you already have like 3 or 4 of those, and you're really enjoying Otherworld Battle, you're really enjoying Team Battle Arena, if, God forbid you're enjoying Alliance Conquest, then I would say, yeah, you know what, Adam Warlock probably makes sense for you, and now is the best time to get him because he's on the highest discount. And 4,600 crystals, while it's a lot, it's still only half of what they're giving you for free. So they're basically giving everyone a free Adam Warlock with 5,000 extra crystals. You can look at it that way. But that being said, if you're not looking to enjoy those game modes specifically, right? If you're not looking to enjoy Otherworld Battle, Team Battle Arena, and Conquest more, then I think there's no reason you should get Adam Warlock. I don't think you should build Adam Warlock at this point for Timeline Battle. He is not in the top 5 consideration for Timeline Battle, in my opinion. And even if he is, he's a very distant 5th from the other 4, right? The other 4 have insane, you know, symbiote synergy. They have immortality with huge burst damage, or their Sentry, right? So they just have they have an extra step, they have an extra piece that Adam doesn't have. And remember, Adam is being buffed by the team up collection. When some of these other characters like Sentry get the team up collection and are able to capture even more value and deal more damage, Adam is going to fold, right? Adam right now is taking less damage from enemies because most of the enemies he fights don't have a team up collection, or the team up collection is not as well built. In the case of Null, if you're not a whale, right? Because the Symbiote Collection just came out recently, whereas the Guardians Collection has been out for a year plus. So that's gonna erode over time, and his defensive inefficiencies, or like not inefficiencies, but like his weakness is defense, not offense. That's going to be exposed more over time as power creep continues to catch up to him, and as more meta characters get team up collections. You can even, like, as something as interesting as this, you can even go through and look you can count how many speed types specifically have a team up collection, and you'll actually find, interestingly, that there's very few speed types that have a team up collection. that are featured in one, or if they are featured, they're not even relevant for PvP. Like in the first 3 collections, the only real PvP character we've come across is Deadpool. Small shout out to X23 and Wong, but let's be real here. Then you go to the next one, nobody for PvP. You only really come to the first speed character for PvP that has a team of collection in Spider-Man, right? That's really your first option, and Black Widow to a lesser extent, for sure. And then Spider-Man gets repeated there, and then Daredevil, well, we all know what happened to him, right? But no team-up collection for Thunderbolts means that we missed the possibility for Ghost, Yelena, we missed the possibility for all these other speed types, right? They didn't add any other speed types to Defenders who could have been added, and they basically, you know, there's just a lot of speed types that are either falling into the category of support, falling into the category of like whatever, or have no PvP business, and so, you know, they just don't have that extra reach to really punch up on these PvP incumbent metas, especially in the case of type advantage. Like, wait until this guy gets team up collection and a rework. That's gonna be sick, because he's gonna hit like a truck. For example, just my speculation, but it's just, I think it's interesting to think about in the wider, you know, the wider kind of scope of the game. Like, how much better would Electra be if she had an extra 10% pierce? Maybe she'd be good enough. I don't know. Maybe not, but maybe. Anyways, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching the video. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.